Look at them. They deserve to know their father. All of them.
People had been laughing seconds before. Dresses rustled, glasses clinked. A dozen rich faces watched her like she was a mistake standing upright. Then she added the words that cut through the noise like a quiet blade, "But I can love your children." The billionaire stopped breathing. He had heard deals collapse with less force than that sentence. Everyone waited for him to react. They expected anger, or mockery, or dismissal, because men like him did not pause for women like her. And women like her were expected to apologize for existing. She did not. Her name was Mara Hale. She stood near the long dining table, hands folded in front of her, shoulders wide, body full, dressed simple and dark. Her curves were not hidden. She had stopped trying years ago. Her hair was pulled back, not to impress, but to stay out of the way. Her eyes were calm in a room built to make people beg. Across from her sat Julian Crow, billionaire, widower, father of two. A man whose name bent rooms when spoken. He had invited her only because his assistant insisted. "The children need someone different," she had said. "Someone who will not fear them." Julian had agreed out of boredom, out of exhaustion, out of a quiet guilt he never named now. Boredom had vanished, because his children were staring at Mara like they had just been seen for the first time in years. No one else noticed that. They noticed her body first. Her plain shoes, the way she did not shrink. They noticed what she was not. Not thin, not young, not polished. The judgment filled the room without sound. Mara felt it. She always did. She had learned to stand still inside moments like this, the way sailors learn to stand when waves rise. Her heart slowed instead of raced. Her breath stayed low. Silence had become her armor long ago. She had not come to be chosen. She had come to be honest. Mara's story did not begin in rooms. Like this, it began in a narrow house that smelled of soap and warm bread. A house where laughter came easy and money did not. She had been the strong child, the one who carried groceries, who lifted chairs, who hugged too tight. People told her she was built for work, not for dreams. She believed them for a long time. She worked early. She worked hard. She learned to care for others before she learned to care for herself. When her mother fell ill, Mara became the quiet center of the home. When her father passed, she became the wall that did not fall. She learned the weight of bodies before she learned the weight of words. Years later, she worked with children who had lost parents, children who screamed in sleep and stared through walls. She wiped tears with steady hands. She sat through silences that scared other adults away. She stayed. People praised her kindness but never imagined her desired. Men spoke to her like she was a helper, not a woman. She watched them choose smaller voices, smaller bodies. Brighter smiles, she did not envy them. She learned a different kind of love. The kind that stays, even when no one claps. When she lost the one man who had ever loved her openly, not to anger or betrayal but to a slow illness, something inside her settled instead of shattered. She learned grief was not loud. It was heavy. It pressed into the chest and stayed. After that, she stopped asking to be wanted. She chose to be useful. She chose to be true. Julian Crow had built an empire with sharp instincts and sharper silence. He had lost his wife in a moment that never replayed correctly in his mind. The house had grown quieter afterward, except for the children. His son Theo carried his anger like a shield. His daughter Ellen carried hers inward, like a secret bruise. Nannies came and went. Teachers quit. Helpers cried in private and left in the morning. Everyone tried to manage the children. No one tried to know them. When Mara entered the room earlier that day, Theo had looked up, ready to test her. Ellen had not looked up at all. Mara had knelt to their level without asking permission. "You do not have to like me," she had said calmly, "but I will not leave you alone in a room full of noise." Theo had frowned. Ellen had blinked. That was all. Now in this dining room, filled with wealth and quiet cruelty, Julian remembered that moment. He watched as Mara stood alone under judgment and did not flinch. The guests waited for him to dismiss her instead. He stood. The movement was small, but it cracked something open. He looked around the table, at the smiles that were already fading, at the people who had mistaken his silence for agreement. Then he looked at Mara. For the first time, he saw more than what she was not. He saw strength that did not ask permission. He saw truth that did not bend, and he saw his children leaning toward her without realizing it. The tension thickened. One guest shifted. Another cleared a throat. Someone laughed too late, too sharp. Julian spoke slowly. He asked her why she had said it that way. Mara met his eyes. She did not lower her gaze. Because pretending helps no one, she said. I am not what men want, but I am what children need. The room bristled. Julian felt something unfamiliar arise in his chest. Not desire. Not pity, respect. He thought of the nights his children cried, and no one heard. The mornings they stared at plates untouched. The way they watched adults leave without turning. Back, he thought of all the beautiful people who had failed them. Then he thought of this woman, who had already chosen them without promise. The shift did not happen loudly. It happened when Julian walked around the table and pulled out a chair for Mara himself. Sit, he said. Some guests froze. Others smiled tightly, unsure if this was a joke. Mara sat not. Because she was invited, because she was ready. Julian turned to the guests. He said that anyone who could not see value beyond surface was free to leave. No one moved. Power does not need to shout. The silence stretched until it taught a lesson. Over the following weeks, Mara did not change herself. She did not dress differently. She did not soften her body or her voice. She stayed steady. She listened when Theo raged. She waited when Ellen hid. She made space where there had been none. Julian watched from doorways. He noticed how the house began to sound different. Less sharp. Less hollow. One night, he overheard Theo say something that stopped him cold. She stays even when I am bad. Another night, Ellen slipped her hand into Mara's without a word. Julian felt something break open in him then. The public, however, was less kind. Photos appeared. Comments followed. Questions came sharp and careless. Why her? What does she offer? Is this charity? Mara read none of it. She had learned long ago that noise does not deserve her eyes. Julian read everything. For the first time in his life, he did not fight back with money or threats. He waited. The day came when the children were invited to a public event. Cameras lined the entrance. Whispers rolled like fog. Mara arrived with them. Theo took her hand. Ellen held her sleeve. Julian walked beside them. Someone muttered, something cruel. Mara did not react. Theo stopped. He turned and said clearly, she chose us when no one else did. The crowd went silent. Julian felt pride burn behind his eyes. Later that night, Julian stood with Mara on the terrace. The city stretched below them, bright and distant. He told her he had never met anyone like her. She nodded. He told her he did not know how to place his feelings. She nodded again, then she spoke. Love that asks to be earned is not love, she said. Love that stays, as Julian understood then. This was not a story about saving her, it was a story about finally seeing her. The choice he made did not come with fireworks. It came with consistency, with public support, with private gratitude, with a slow, honest bond that grew from trust, not fantasy. When he stood beside her later, not as a benefactor, but as a partner, the world had less to say, because the children were smiling, because the house was full, because love had taken a shape people did not expect. Mara never claimed to be fit for any man. She did not need to. She had already proven. She was strong enough to love without conditions, and in doing so, she taught a powerful man and everyone watching. That worth is not measured by desire, but by devotion. Sometimes the quietest presence is the strongest one in the room. Sometimes the woman no one chooses is the one who changes everything. If this story moved you, share where you are watching from. Tell us what silent strength means to you. And subscribe for more stories that honor the power of quiet hearts and unseen courage.